Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. We travel all over assisting companies in manufacturing, quality certification as well, ISO and its derivatives, and also for NADCAP implementation. And also for NADCAP implementation, also NADCAP audit assisting, because you need a lot of assistance when it comes to NADCAP. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Today, this video is very important. I am doing it specifically for a very dear friend of mine. I told him about it. He's involved with the auto industry. Quality is in the crapper. I emphatically told him, do not join the International Automotive Task Force, or as I have called it over time, the International Automotive Task Farce. And the reason why I say that is just last week they had over 875,000, almost a million units, and when I say units, it's cars, getting recalled from Ford Motor Company because of a quality issue. And they sit on the International Automotive Task Force. This video today is about the IATF exacerbates auto recalls in concert with the, here it is, the International Automotive Oversight Bureau. One organization is oversighting another, but that's neither here nor there. And the next one is the Automotive Industry Action Group. And of course, the International Automotive Task Force. QA expert Daryl Guberman explains, within the realm of quality, they have a big term here. They call it voluntary consensus. We have voluntary consensus standards, and you're going to find out today that they're bullshitting you. Just like they tell you that quality is job one at Ford, it's not the people, it's not the personnel, it's the engineers, designers, and actually management upstairs. Get the product out the door, and 3 months later, we'll suffer on recalls. Is accreditation mandatory? You're going to find out again that we have an email from the vice president of quality at the time in 2014. He was also the chairman of the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware, and also on the International Accreditation Forum 990 tax form as a principal, so he had complete control of this quality quagmire. And it says, is accreditation mandatory? Accreditation is voluntary. Accreditation by ANAB provides an exemplary level of credibility and integrity and trust. That's why Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, who sit on ANSI's board, had recalls of the COVID vaccine. Pfizer skipped quality processes and standards. You have Johnson & Johnson recalled 75 million vials of COVID because of contamination and quality issues. You also have on board Boeing, who fudged documentation, okay? And that to me is terrible. And you have Lockheed, who several weeks ago I read that on their 801st F-35 that was built, quality issues. Now, these corporations sit on ANSI's board. You would think if they sat on the board that makes these voluntary consensus standards and over by their accreditation, ANAB, which is the American National Accrediting Board, which was taken over by ANSI in 2018, you would think that they'd have top-notch stuff going on. They've got shit. The next thing is they call it impartial oversight. Within the standard 17, I think it's ISO 1711 for certification, for accreditation. It says impartiality. It says you're not supposed to be financially getting compensated. Well, we have two federal agencies that are getting financially compensated from ANSI, so that standard is out the window. A great word that we've come to love over these many, many years involved in the business side for 12 years and also involved in quality for 40 plus, is the word that they always use, whether it's our politicians or whether it's a quality professional, is obfuscation. The action of making something obscure, unclear, and unintelligible. Sitting on the International Automotive Task Force are some of the following members. BMW, who has had many recalls. Ford Motor Company, many recalls. Geely Automotive, recalls. General Motors, recalls. Jaguar Land Rover, recalls. Mercedes-Benz, recalls. Renault, recalls. Volkswagen, recalls. and I've got the data to prove it. I would not say it if it was not true. The IATF sits on the International Accreditation Forum, and they've been sitting there for a long time. You will see as I progress that between 2015 and 21, the IAF was handed over to a communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who's been involved with our quality since 1994. I'm going to hold up on him, but I also want to read this to you. Effective December 31st, 2017, organizations that supply to ISO or TS 16949, now it's IATF 16949, will be required to hold a certificate from a certification body registrar that is part of the International Accreditation for Multilateral Agreement. IAF manages the world process. And if you could see this, it says mandate. And what did I read you over here? That they say it's voluntary. So already you have miscommunication. You have a bad quality connect there. One organization says that it's mandating this, and ANSI, ANAB, the accreditation body, who IATF is mandating to some degree. Unbelievable. And by the way, the International Automotive Oversight Bureau is dedicated to ensuring automotive consumers can trust IATF certification. Well, what the hell happened to the 875,000 cars that Ford recalled? And you have GM and Chrysler and Mercedes-Benz and BMW. BMW stands for Break My Wallet, and Ford stands Found on Road Dead. And this doesn't go to the employees, this goes to your management where it should go. Because while they're smoking cigars, they're deciding on you in the quality department, let's downsize and get rid of quality, just like Boeing did. Unbelievable. You have ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental organization that's been around for over 104 years, who has federal agencies on board. This is a good one. We received this email from Randy Doty, who at the time in 2014 was the vice president of the American National Standards Institute, which was owned by the American Society for Quality, 50%, and also by ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. A sidebar to this is in 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality. And Mr. Dave Levy got up when I first started my business. Mr. Dave Levy, a Region 3 director representative of ASQ, which owned ANAB 50%, said this, and I quote, "Mr. Guberman, we have no problem with you. In fact, ANAB supports you, sir." We didn't need their support, nor would we, because there's a lot of insidious individuals in these organizations, and I've got the proof of it. I've got ANSI on board. I've got a tape recording of a chairman of the American National Standards Institute in 2022. And please forgive the language, but he called me up when you'll see, when I exposed a laboratory accreditation fraud. It's a fraud. And the reason why it is you have a Pamela Sale who gave a deposition in 2017 to the court in Texas. And she said, from one laboratory to another, there are variances, no protocol. So I brought that forward. And I told a video. One thing led to another. I'm sorry I'm getting off track. But I get this guy, Russ Cheney, on the phone saying, "Half a nut, fuck you." And he's the chairman. I then applied, that was 2019. I then applied in 2022 to be on their, their director at large. I put a 54-page document in, 16 letters of recommendation. Who was the guy, the chairman watching over the election? No other than Russ Cheney. So needless to say, see what happened. So this is what Randy said. We asked, under what regulated authority does ANAB operate? As I mentioned earlier, ANAB is the ANSI ASQ at the time, National Accreditation Board. We are a limited liability corporation, 50-50 by ANSI and ASQ. We are not operating under any governmental regulatory authority with the exception of being a legal entity. Now I'm going to show you his lie. Sitting on ANSI is NIST. I'm going to show you. This is from the 2019 roster, but Gordon's still there. Gordon Guberman. And at the time, it was considered royalty payment. This is called various now, if you look at it. He's making $120,000 from ANSI. Okay, government. Randy said there's no government. This is government. Okay, on ANSI. Okay, which owns now ANAB 2018. $120,000 plus his government salary. There's a strange thing too, because NIST is part of the Department of Commerce and they sit on ANSI. There's over 50 different organizations called the NIST MEPs, Manufacturing Extension Partnership, that receive both federal and state funding. And they take 64.85% of those funds and distribute amongst their management. Isn't that nice? And personnel. And here's the nice little 50 organizations. This is why quality, this is why manufacturing in America is in the trash. Because you have government agencies sucking on the breast of the federal government and the and state government for funds. You also have the Department of Homeland Security, who sits on ANSI. In 2017, Randy Doherty was advertised on the Department of Homeland Security because they had this specialized PPI or PPA certificate. So they advertised Randy as the vice president of ANAB, a private company. That's like having a Walmart on the FBI. That's like having a Walmart on the DHS. To make matters worse, okay, during this time, Randy Doherty's buddy, Zhao Jinwu, a communist national who is mandated by China to take anybody's data through the China National Intelligence Law, was sitting on ANSI's, was sitting as the chairman of the IAF, and Randy was sitting on the DHS. And at that time, by the way, they got hacked by China. I don't think it's hacked. I think it's giving away data. Can we infer that possibly Randy was a filter? We don't know. That's up in the air. But here is this guy, Phil Masterson, making $256,000 DHS. No wonder why Randy was being advertised. As soon as I put the video out concerning that, they took him down. 200 plus his federal salary. And they used to call it royalty payment. This is what a royalty payment is. Unfortunately, the term royalty is not defined in the tax law. The regulations simply provide that whether a particular item of income is a royalty payment must be determined by the facts and circumstances of each case. And it appears a royalty payment is non-taxable. Who else sits there? The Department of Justice. There's many federal agencies, FDA, FBI, etc. Department of Transportation that handles the recalls and quality with cars that are in the trash, so to speak. In 2015, here we go, Randy Doherty, I told you, was the vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IAF, and also the principal in the IAF tax form. The IAF is incorporated in Delaware, the International Accreditation Forum. He handed over leadership to this communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who is mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You also have the factor that he, at the same time as the chairman of the IAF, was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China. And this is the same organization that certified the lab in Wuhan, China, the BioLevel 4 lab. This is where you had, Pamela Sale giving a deposition during the same time we were standing in the lab. He's coming up, though, in that lab. We have a picture. And there it is, the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You have the factor that Randy was talking so highly about Zhao Jinwu. It says, I am also pleased that my successor at the IAF chair, as the IAF chair and president, is Zhao Jinwu of China National Accreditation Services Conformity Assessment. Yeah, they did a lot of conformity assessment when it came to Wuhan. And here he is, the man of the hour, Zhao Jinwu, standing in Wuhan, China, handing over a certificate, okay, a quality certificate, okay, and he is standing there. He's still the chairman, and he was the chairman from 2015 to 2021 of the International Accreditation Forum in Delaware, and he's also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. They sitting or standing in that mess in Wuhan. I gave a presentation, a video concerning the A2LA sitting on ANSI's board. As you can see, they're sitting there. They also were sitting on the IF, they still are. And Ashley Morton from A2LA wrote underneath my video, said, A2LA and ANSI are two separate accreditation bodies unto themselves. Does that look like separation to you, my fellow business associates and my fellow citizens? In 2017, Pamela Sale, Vice President of Quality for Certification, gave a deposition, and she said this: one of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards for forensic labs, and I'm adding this, Bio-level 4 labs, phlebotomy labs around the country and the world have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines and the labs can choose to follow or not. So they're issuing certificates as a fraud. It's a fraud. Certification in laboratory. In fact, there's a paper written by a lawyer, Marvin Schechter, out of New York in 2011, stated that ASCLD lab, which is owned by ANSI ANAB, and also ANAB itself is an accreditation body, and I guess registrar for laboratory accreditation, own ASCLD lab. Mr. Schechter said, and I quote, ASCLD lab's certificate is no more than a badge of honor. It does nothing for the system. There it is. And if you don't believe me, we've got plenty of material here that shows you the laboratory failure. Randy Doherty sent us an email when he was the when he was the vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IAF, and also on the IAF tax firm as a principal. He told us what an IAF MLA and MRA is. MLA is a multilateral agreement, organization, and then you have the regional agreement. And he basically said in here that, let's say China National Accreditation Services issues a laboratory certification, it's as if ANAB did it. That said, and I don't like that statement, but that being said, ANSI and ANAB, you'll find out they are underwriters for the International Accreditation Forum in Delaware and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, who are sister organizations, which mean this, that they are legally responsible for any failures of the product. It's no longer a system. They used to say we only certified a system, not a product. By them being underwriters, sorry, game over, gentlemen. Again, remember what IAF said, mandate. Here's Randy inviting us in 2016 to join either the IAF or ANAB or both. And I, as a proud American, do you hear this, ladies and gentlemen? I, as a proud American, would not join ANAB or IAF. I wanted independence from communist China. All these federal agencies sitting on ANSI have gotten their data taken. The corporations have gotten their data taken by China. The closeness of the IAF between 2015 and 2021 was a grand harvesting of data and information by China because they were in control of the IAF. This came right off the website of ANAB. And I'm going to say this to everybody who's certified by TUV, DNV, BVQI, who are ANAB accredited. Your accreditation is meaningless. And here it goes. Is your certificate accredited? If your certificate was issued by an ANAB accredited certification body, the answer to the question is probably yes. You want to probably, no wonder why we have such quality issues. You don't want a quality issue. The certification is not good. It's a probably. You don't want probably, you want support. And here it is. The IAF and ILAC are sister organizations. Sitting on the IAF, and I don't say this to the people of Iran and Pakistan, but I say this to the politicians. You have Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden and admitted to it. You have Iran, who a couple of years ago said, yes, we harbored some of the terrorists that politicians did that blew up the Twin Towers and also the Pentagon. So take a look at this mess. They sit on there. Also sitting by them on the IAF was no other than Lockheed Martin. Maybe they can sell them a little bit more missiles or something. But Lockheed's quality is crap. I told you, after the 801st ship, F-35 is no good. They still have quality issues. Loss of aircraft, up to including loss of aircraft. And we just had an F-35 go down a couple weeks ago. They still really haven't released everything that they should release. You have ANAB that sits on ANSI. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You also have 7 registrars that sit over by the accreditation body that they use for their certifications. You have TÜV, which was back in World War II, they were involved with the Nazis, certifying carbon monoxide cylinders. We have the whole document, so I'm not telling a lie. We have actual actual letters from commandants at concentration camps that were putting pressure on TÜV to get out those cylinders so they can kill more people. That's basically what you have to say. You have BSI, who had a guy, Reg Blake, who sits on not only the ANAB board, but he sits on the ANAB Management Systems Accreditation Council, which can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification, just like Boeing. You think that? I've never seen in all my years that they suspended a certification. You have 10 different registrars in China that issue an ANAB accredited certification. Let me get to underwriters. Underwriters. It is unbelievable. Here is the government contract. Okay, here is the government contract. And if you look at this over here, it states ANAB is an underwriter, actually ANSI ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Forum, IAF. And the sadness is, and if you look at that, I'm going to hold it there for a second. You can read what an underwriter is. You can stop the video. But under this contract, this is where it was. We have plenty of them, calling out ANAB and ANSI and all this stuff in IAF. But the most disgusting part of it is you have the Department of State. Okay, you also have the DOD that sits on ANSI. In 2018, they were being watched over by Communist China. In fact, on that contract, it states it must have an IFMLA accreditation body, which they're inviting China in at this time. So our State Department is inviting Communist China, who, remember this, they have the China National Accreditation, the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, which mandates espionage. When everything is boiled down and you look at the IAF, you look at ILAC. ILAC's acronym is International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. No, the real acronym is laboratory accreditation credible? Is laboratory accreditation credible? And then if you look at the IAF, this is what the IAF is. It always fails. Now you have the problem with automotive. I've showed you this. I want to show all of this, how these interconnect, how quality failure under the ANSI ANAB banner, how quality failure under IATF, the International Automotive Task Force, the International Automotive Observation Bureau, and the IAIG. These acronyms, remember, it's all ossification. I leave it here. And to you, my friend, that I spoke to yesterday concerning joining the IATF, I hope this actually changes your mind, because having a cert from those critters is like having a cow shit on your feet. It's no good. Having a certificate from ANSI ANAB, I proved it time and time again. I even tried to clean up the mess. And you have a guy who swore at me, who's the chairman, who's making a lot of money, not for profit anyway, but through a royalty payment at the time when he said that, he was making $356,000 tax-free. Russ Cheney. Yes, I don't make this up. I have everything. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll find it at Daryl Guberman. Look at my YouTube channel. And what we have, they don't have. Integrity, honesty, and the truth. But what they do have, ANSI, is having the government. What those corporations have that do insidious things like Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, to name a few, Boeing, and Lockheed. And I don't mean this about the employees. I mean this about upper level. I mean the CEO, vice president, CEO. There you go. That's the best way to say it. It's disgusting. Integrity, honesty, and the truth rule the day. And it shall always rule the day. And do you know something? I will say this to ANSI. Yes, this is not a threat. This is a promise. And just remember, it is not the droplet of water that wears away the mighty stone, but it is its persistence. Let me tell you this. You could have cleaned this all up by having me on the board, but you didn't. That's a shame. What I bring to ANSI, and the reason why they didn't, is because they are corrupt. I have all the data. I would not say that. Their lawyer is Jameson Carroll, Crackerjack Box. Joe Battia, the CEO of ANSI, he's no good. Russ Cheney, the chairman who swore at me, who was also the chairman of the election board. And when he said half a nut, fuck you, Jim Tassett at Lockheed Martin, the CEO, basically said it to me because Lockheed sits on that board. When he said it, David Calhoun said half a nut, fuck you to me. When he said it, Allison Morosco, who is employed by Microsoft, the CEO, said it directly to me because Russ Cheney is the chairman. So anybody who sits as director at large has to take the slings and arrows of half a nut, fuck you. And I leave it there. And I do this because of integrity, honesty, and the truth. And that's what it's all about. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS@yahoo.com. I'm sorry for the length of this, but this is my deposition concerning the International Automotive Task Force and its farce.